Good night. So this will be somewhat of an agenda video and also science video. The first part will be a general comment regarding my scientific efforts. The second part will be a short scientific discussion of the ground digging in the Tomb Raider affair. And the third part I will discuss how do I seem to continue with my own research? So the first remark is for people that are used to science, it might be obvious, but I don't know. Most of my audience, I guess, are all sort of, I'm searching for what's the best English word, nice English word, for scumbag, but if you don't want to say scumbag, so they might not, it might not be obvious to them. So I should say that, most of what I do in the last year is not just, hovering over microscopes and taking more and more samples and creating appliances, even though I've done it quite a bit. Actually, I think that, the percentage of the time that I actually put in it is actually much larger than the average scientist of any kind of science. But that's not what you do. Mostly what you do is you think. You read and you think. Sometimes you just think. And because, getting more and more samples is not natural. Not necessarily will help you. It's kind of statistically, I forgot the English term, oversampling. That you take too much samples and then you reach conclusion that doesn't hold water. And if the whole issue of linearity is incredibly new to you, you might find it beneficial to take more and more samples right now from this container. But it's not new to me, and we've already seen that it's quite similar for those that were already taken. So I don't feel pressure to prove anything to anybody. Again, at that point, the sky is my witness. The proof is on the stars. If you don't, you should rescue me because otherwise the aliens will annihilate all of you, not because of any other things that I show you in this channel. I've already shown you so much stuff, and now you just need to stuff, as they say, to stuff. So even though I actually dedicate the tremendous amount of time to actual, laboratories, research, and construction of electrical appliances, still, most of the time is used for thinking. And actually, this created a rift, I would say, in nice words, between me and the people that are always watching me in this apartment, because obviously I'm always being watched, and it is part of the haunted house. They always get beeps and sounds and noises, whatever something unusual happened. And since April, since I arrived to this place, I understood that the people that are watching me, they are entirely alien to the phenomenon of thinking. They don't understand, and so they don't understand. They see the robot just, presumably in his room, not watching TV, not speaking on the phone. He doesn't appear to be sleeping because his eyes are open, but he doesn't move, and so they start to get stressed. Sometimes such things even take more than a couple of minutes. Even up to an hour sometimes, and and then the anxiety level in the Israeli intelligence skyrocketing because what happened to the robot? They don't want me dead. They want me as their slave, but they don't want me dead. So they think maybe he's resetted, or a malfunction happened, or I don't know, because he's not moving. And so what is he doing? And you need to understand, these people they were raised to never think, because their educators and parents saw that it's incredibly unhealthy for them to think. So they never done it in their life, and they consider it the little of them that actually know what it is, they consider it very anti-beneficial for everybody. So they just avoid it like plague. So they don't understand what's going on. So they start to do beeps and sounds and horns. And sometimes they do it after, depends on the operator, after 10 seconds that I'm just not moving. Because from their perspective, 10 seconds and the robot doesn't move and doesn't watch his TV and not speaking. So what's going on? And why is his eyes open? If he's dead, he shouldn't be closing his eyes. What's going on? And So they start the beeps and the shouts and the screaming of the zombies. And it was, of course, it's not fun to be in such an environment, but I think that with time, actually, it happens less. Like, I think after some time, I must say that, like, I mean, maybe there was a change of operators, but I mean, in the recent months, they do it less than before. Like, maybe they kind of, like, I mean, maybe they've read, like, that in the ancient past of humanity, actually humans have done that as well, not only the robots, like the cherubs, like us. Actually, you all also have done that. I know it's, you might not believe me. I know it sounds ridiculous, but search in your old records, you know, the archives of humanity, and you'll be surprised that some of your ancestors, I mean, not many, but yeah, I mean, mostly they didn't, but I mean, some of your ancestors, actually, and I promise you it's not it because we follow you for a long time, the cherubs, and I mean, you might not believe, but some of your ancestors, like all over the world, like not just in one place, but yes, it was rare, it was always rare, admittingly, but some of your ancestors actually have done so, like they actually, I mean, thought, like, I mean, they actually use their brain, I mean, so it's not just, I mean, this phenomenon actually is not just unique to the cherubs. Like it's actually, you almost happens have done so in the past. So maybe they've like heard about it or read about it, like the operators. So I mean, it's not as violent as it was before because in the first couple of months, I mean, just I mean, you know, whenever I kind of like for 10 seconds or 20 seconds that I mean they haven't seen me moving or like I mean they started the beeps and like I mean just I mean they saw that maybe I mean if they use sound and you know noises I mean the robot will kind of like I mean wake up from his hibernation because they thought maybe it's an hibernation. Like, it's kind of like, you know, like that the robot is like opening his eyes but not moving. So maybe he hibernates. So you need to wake him up because maybe after hibernations, I mean, he will like, I mean, naturally proceed to death and they don't want me to die. So beneficially, they just use the sound, I mean, from the streets or whatever they can. I mean, after 10 seconds that I do not move, just think. And it was a torture, but I mean, yes, they got somewhat better with that. I must say salute to the Israeli intelligence. Probably because my guess is that they actually found out in some of the records, maybe someone actually found like in some kind of ancient record that actually humans have done so as well. That's my estimation. So I'm not running like for new samples because first of all, I mean I don't have many containers. I just now have only one big one. I mean before I had like 10 or 20 at least, and in my mother's apartment, I in the beginning of the research I had tremendous amount because I was all over the place. So for me, it's more important kind of to think like how do I want to proceed and to evaluate the results, watch all the videos, not necessarily take more and more samples, especially now that I don't have many containers. And it's more important than like just I mean do more stuff. Again, I don't need to prove anything to anybody, so that's why I mean just to say that it's normal. I mean it's normal that I mean most of what scientists are doing is not necessarily hovering above microscope or things like that. It's important, but it's not. It's more important kind of like to analyze the existing data and to think how to continue and to devise experiments in ways that will be beneficial because yes, I mean with things that are so amazing like the Neros, probably everything that you do I mean will be somewhat amazing. So you can just I mean play around like in the sandbox. I mean, and I've done so in the past. I mean, but mostly just in the beginning. But very quickly I understood that I mean, gathering data without a vector, like without like kind of like I mean, that I need theories all the time. Even if most of the theories will be disproved, and of course many were I mean disproven. I mean, I need the theories because otherwise you just I mean accumulate data in all sorts of like random ways. So it's best to always have theories, even like if almost all of it would not be proven wrong, like correct, like will be verified. But I mean, you need it in order to devise experiments in a way that will be meaningful. And because otherwise, I mean, again, there is always like, the chance that I mean, without any theory, you will be tempted to interpret, I mean, random results of experiments. I mean, like a posteriori, according to, like, I mean, to your whims. And so it's best to have the theories even before you start the experiment. This is first. Second, regarding the Tomb Raider experience. First of all, it's totally funny, you must agree. I mean, sometimes I kind of like, I mean, I do like a drama in which I kind of like laugh about things that are not funny at all, just to show you how Nazi you are in an ironic way. But this is actually funny. I mean, it's funny shit. It's funny shit. Of course, it got all sorts of, political implications. But they are. I mean, they depend on what you already know. I mean, and as I said, I understood that in the intelligence services of the world, not only the Israelis, they are used to forget things. They don't write anything. They live in a pre-alphabet world. So even things that they have already known in the 80s, they forgot it. So it depends on how much you know. But it's funny anyway, because there's a trope in fiction of opening the grave and finding something surprising. So it's a known trope in literature, cinema, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and other stuff. You hear the zombies have what to say. They always have what to say. The zombies, the mouth is wide open. The mouth of the zombie is wide open. Soon there will be no humans. Soon there will be no humans in Earth. And the zombies still open their mouths. There will be apocalypse any second all around the globe. Apocalypse every moment. Not in Israel. All around the blue planet. If violence do not stop right now, there will be an apocalypse all around the globe right now. Not in Israel. On the blue planet. Apocalypse on the blue planet. Right now. All over the globe. We do not clean your trash can. We clean the blue planet. The starships arrived to clean the blue planet, not the trash can. Not the trash can. The blue planet. The blue planet. The blue planet. Not the trash can, the blue planet. The blue planet. Not the trash can. The blue planet. Not the trash can. Starship this size do not cross light years in order to clean your trash can. They are here to clean the blue planet. Not the trash can. If you want a clean trash can, by all means, you should have cleaned it long ago. By all means, do it. You should have done it long ago. We will not do it for you. We will not clean the trash can for you. We arrived to clean the globe, not the trash can. The globe, not the trash can. The globe, the blue planet, not the trash can. Depends on what you already know. The political implication could vary. But as I said, as a trope, it is known, that you open a grave and you find something unexpected. But it's just to show you that this trope, is not yet exhausted. There is so much to add to this kind of literary trope. Because I'm sure that no one, ever thought to open these graves and find this whatever you found it. Because you need the scientific background. That's why science is important. Science, in the Mark Watney in the Martian Good movie, I will science this shit. Yeah, so he does, so he did. But I want to address this question from the scientific perspective, and because it's funny and it's also maybe a political implication. But I just want to add a few words with regards to science, and I understand it. It's kind of funny, but that's just additional few words. First of all, I've said that Nancy's body would be remarkably preserved. Nancy's body, Nancy was a Titan for certain. This is certain, okay, without question. What we have here is the body of Nancy, the body of Reagan, and some extras that we will discuss in a second. But regarding Nancy's body, she was a Titan. Now, I don't know how much they decomposed and how they decomposed. I don't have this. My guess was that it will be much more better preserved than what you expect from human. But it doesn't mean that it will not be decomposed at all. And we've seen that synthetic life forms like the Full Metal Jacket was indeed, 3 months after, the bug is dead, it's still remarkably well preserved, even though it's not perfect. We've seen, at the event, I've seen it under the microscope. Maybe I'll do it later today. But we've seen decomposure, but not some, but of course less than what you would expect, because it's made of other material. Now, I mean, I've said it many times in the past, but maybe, I mean, it's so important that it's important. I mean, I will repeat myself now. Very quickly. When I say synthetic life forms, what I mean is mostly life forms that of the type that you don't know of. So this is a fluid definition, but I mean, because I mean, when you know it, I mean, it's kind of like, so it changes the definition. Because from the Nero perspective, and I understood it long ago and spoke about it quite a bit, from the perspective of the Neros that are expert in life, what you call biological life forms are subset of what you call synthetic life forms. Which means that there is the phenomenon of life, which is all synthetic because it's all created by them, or could be created by them. And there is the biological life forms that is carbon based, and it's what you know of from Earth, but it's a subset or a partial group of the synthetics. It's anti-intuitive maybe for you, but biological, from the Nero perspective, is a subgroup of the synthetic. From their perspective, in other words, it's just a kind of life, what you call biological life. And it's important to understand because many people think that biological life is life, and this is why bio. So, but no, from their perspective, life is a phenomenon which is very rich. They do not consider themselves to be living, but they are expert in life. And life could be created all sorts of materials. And the life that you know that is carbon-based and has all sorts of properties in Earth is just, one type of many other types that they know of. So when we just say synthetic life form, we don't mean that they are like robots or androids or replicants. Again, from the Nero perspective, it's the correct perspective because they know so much more than you. It's just another form of life. And what you call biological is just a subset of the synthetic. So I understood that Nancy's body will be preserved because she was a Titan. Never mind if she was the original Titan that was sent there or another one that cloned her, the original. Same, it's still a Titan. And so also it's going to be preserved better than you expect, but not perfectly preserved because, they're still made of material, and this material can be, decomposed and maybe even eaten. But my guess it would be slower, but not perfectly preserved, not like wax figure, not like that. And of course, it depends on when she died. I don't really remember. Maybe 20 years ago. I don't really remember. I don't know. Most probably after Reagan, like the husband, but I don't remember the dates. Now regarding the body of the husband. So now, no, let's wait a second with the husband, and let's think about the extras. So the Neros, they work in actual environments, and I said many times, they don't work like in kind of like in ideal world because the world is not ideal. And this was demonstrated many times in many of the experiments that I've done since very early. That the Neros, they don't wait for all the material and energy to be supplied to them before they start a project. No, they start the project, whenever they get the command or by their own volition. And many times they stop the project because they don't have enough energy or matter, or because they die. And this is true mostly on the microscopic slides because they don't they cannot live more than 2 weeks on the slide, which is tremendously more than any kind of microbe that is known to humans. But mostly what happened in those experiments from the first from January, February, March is that we've seen partial projects. It was always like that because mostly they couldn't complete what they started, but they don't wait for the material. They start the project. They assume that maybe with time more space will be available, more material, more energy, which is kind of like how humans would have done that. Like Sagrada Familia, in Barcelona. It's still being built after 130 years because they wait for more money all the time. And it was like that since Gaudi, like since the inception. So that's the thing. That's how they act. So it's completely improbable that you open the grave and you really see a body of of some kind of a hybrid between Nancy and Ronald. I've said it. There's kind of like a model of what could be created, but it's improbable that this would actually see it like that because it requires material and energy that not certainly was there. And there are also like parameters that that are part of the construction. So what you can actually see it there is, I don't know. You tell me what you've seen, but most certainly it was something from a horror movie, which is extremely amazing, and it was amazing because it was extra to the two other bodies. So it's not something that you usually like. Again, the trope of like opening the coffin and finding something different is known. But usually, even in fiction, even like in bizarre fiction, you don't find more than one body in one coffin. That's why it's so funny. But what you actually can find depends on many parameters. Could have been like, yes, it's kind of like a Frankenstein, or could have been like half a Frankenstein, or could have been like all sorts of like limbs, like we've seen with the fly experiments. That they create all sorts of limbs, like heap of limbs that are not completely completed. Not completed. Anyway, it's going to be funny. Now there is a question of what about Reagan's and Ronald body? So what you actually can expect from him? And this is actually interesting. In general, there are two options regarding what was actually buried. First option is that there are actually three options. Sorry again. So I'll repeat the options. First option, which is the least likely, and I mentioned just for the the rigorous, to be very rigorous, but it's almost completely improbable, like very low probability that he was Homo sapiens, all the way, and he died, and he was a complete monk, he never drank tea or engaged in any sexual activity in the broadest sense of the word with his wife, and this doesn't make sense. Most probably, they live together. Most probably, they had some kind of. Again, of course, we know what he was, but first of all, second, and third, it doesn't need to be like sexual relationship like anal, vaginal, or oral. It can be sex, sexual relationship is something more broad than that. Intimate relationship. There are lots of intimate relationships that can be done between people, and this includes titans and humans. And in the broad sense, it's sex. Even though it doesn't need to be penetration, even it's kind of like sex. It depends on definition, but couples that live together, they share fluids. What can I say? And of course, most probably he drank her tea. If he was Homo sapiens, he probably drank her pee because it was a drug. But maybe not. Maybe he was a monk. But most probable. But the notion that his body is completely like devoid of neurons and it was just regular Homo sapiens body. It's an option, but very unlikely. But in this case, you just find a skeleton because he died maybe 30 years ago. So we'll find a skeleton, just a skeleton of human. But this is not probable. Now, the second option is that he was Homo sapiens all the way, but he actually had some kind of amount in his body of the drug, probably high amount because the 80s, they did a lot of drugs in the 80s. It was known to be so. In sports, they go and gorge themselves with steroids, and in the streets they made coke, and so it's like, and in Wall Street they did the cocaine. So, and in the White House they did the tea. This was the time, in the 80s, it was the high time. So most probably, if he was Homo sapiens, he ate quite a bit of his drug. So that puts him in what I call the hybrid category. Which means, again, it's not hybrid like in the biological sense, but hybrid because, he has the robots of the Venusians in his body, but he's still Homo sapiens. So now there's a question of, what's the decomposing properties of a hybrid? And this could be answered, you should remember that a tremendous amount of hybrids were buried in Israel. But it's not customary to open graves and watch whatever was going on. But this kind of a question could have, if you really want, you can gather the data from the Israeli, cemeteries. I mean, it might be difficult. Like, I mean, Chevra Kadisha might ask some questions, and I mean, it's not going to be easy politically. But I mean, from the scientific perspective, it's a question that could be answered, because quite a bit of such people were, buried in Israel, throughout the years. My assumption is that it's mostly a normal decomposition, like of Homo sapiens body, but the neros do not decompose, and they just contaminate the soil, and whatever they do in the soil, I don't know. I just don't know. It's a question. I don't know. I should say that from experience, I can tell you that soil or ground is not very good for them as a medium to live. So there is actually like quite good chance that they just die on in the soil. And maybe if it's true, this is my assumption. Actually, the Israeli cemeteries are not that contaminated as they could have been, because they bury in the soil. I mean, not always. Sometimes they use gravel, or it's more complicated than that. But mostly these materials are not favorable for the neros to live. Mostly they require some kind of oil in order to. They are like motors, like gears. Just like motors or gears or guns, like M16, or Tavor. They are for long-term storage. They are stored in grease. Like, they need something greasy. And the fat in the body decomposes after some time. So, for long-term storage, the ground itself. Now, wood can be used for storage, actually. So the coffin itself might be soaked. But in Israel, nobody uses coffins, as I said. So actually, in Israel, it might be less of a problem than it could have been. And again, historically, many were buried. Tremendous amount of people. All the Shabakniks and Mossadniks. They were. Mostly they were all hybrids, and they are buried in Israel. And so the cemetery, and that's quite a bit. It's not one or two. It's a population. It's like that for more than 100 years. So but my estimation is that because mostly they bury in the ground, that they just died in the ground, because we've seen that it's not ground, like soil itself is not good for them, but they can live better inside oily stuff and inside wood. So the coffin itself might be soaked with these things, but in Israel nobody uses coffins. But there's another option which is very interesting, and so I apologize for discussing it in kind of like in passing, without speaking about the political implications. But this is a science video. So there's other options that actually Reagan actually was killed by Nancy, and then Nancy impersonated Reagan, and the Israelis sent another guy, another Titan, to impersonate Nancy. In that case, we have two Titans here. But the second Titan. And it's probably very easy to know by the examination of the body, microscopic examination of the body, whether it was a Titan or Homo sapiens. It shouldn't be difficult. Even if if the Homo sapiens was hybrid, still there is still tremendous amount of difference. If you use science to differentiate between hybrid and Titan, it's not the same. But let's say it was a Titan. But it was like Nancy that impersonated him, and Nancy was another Titan. In that case, it should be said that they are not the same thing, because he was what I called. The body that is in his coffin is what I call a body of a wizard. Wizard is something that I speak about quite a bit in this channel, and even before that. And I cannot repeat everything. It's part of the robot saga and even the previous videos. Wizards, what I call wizard, is transgender, mostly female to male. Because there are almost, there are many females and almost no males. And this phenomenon, I discussed it a lot in the past. I'm not going to repeat myself. I will just say that initially I thought that it's something that kind of like perversion that the people of the Israelis and the Zionists kind of like enforced on the Venusians as part of their subjugation, but should be said that it's not true, that they have done it before the Israelis have arrived there. And I discovered all sorts of stuff that that led me to understand that this is actually a phenomenon in Venus since long ago. And of course, it related to the fact that there were not enough males, because I mean, there is a demand for males, not just for creating a family. Just to say, the wizard is not fertile. I mean, wizard cannot be fathers, but they're still. I mean, the Venusian females want sex. I mean, you can understand it, I guess. And there isn't. I mean, and they're mostly not lesbians. So there was a demand for transgenders. And in Venus, as I said many times, for some, and this was discussed in the past, many of them actually look like, these transgenders actually look like me. So mostly, I mean, what I call the wizard is transgenders, male to woman, woman to Titan females that become men, but they do not. I mean, they cannot be fathers to children. They do not really become males. I mean, now this is a kind of like a political issue. I mean, from my perspective, I'm conservative, so I do not consider like trans woman is not woman from my perspective regarding Homo sapienses. I mean, you can beg to differ, so beg to differ. I mean, but I mean, I am conservative in these matters, as in most other matters. I'm conservative. But I mean, just as much as I mean, even if you politically think that Homo sapiens trans woman is a woman, you wouldn't think that. I mean, you hear the noise. They have messages. The zombies still have messages to send. The robot messages. Soon there will be no Homo sapiens in Earth. They will all die by the radiation. But the zombies, their mouth is wide open, not just open, but wide open. This is the Homo sapiens zombies, wide open. הטרפים. Just as even if politically you say the trans woman is a woman, you don't expect her to be a mother of a child, right? I mean, biologically so. The same is true to Titans. They change their, I mean, the wizards are not really males. Now, I discussed that in the past, what can they do, and what they cannot do, and their subjugation, and the humiliation, and the issue of the spies. This is a whole subject on itself of a wizard, and if you're interested, I can replay old videos. I mean, if you really want, if you can't get access to it, I will just replay old videos, because it's already discussed. I don't want to repeat myself. I would just say that wizards are one of the the tragedies, I mean, is that they are addicted to the tea and they do not produce it in their bodies like females Titans. Even though female Titans, I mean, stop producing it if you don't get the stuff from the male. That's why they need, I mean, they need males for long term. But the wizards do not produce the stuff, but they still need the stuff. So they are hooked on it, and their life depends on it. And this creates all sorts of, like, I mean, problems. And it's, of course, was abused tremendously by the Israeli intelligence throughout the 20th century. Now, brains. הוא ייתן לי בוקס לפרצוף, שמעתם? זה מוקלט. חבוב זה מוקלט, ואני הולך עם זה למשטרה. אני הולך עם זה למשטרה, זה מוקלט, חבוב. זה מוקלט, חבוב זה מוקלט. חבוב זה מוקלט. חבוב זה מוקלט. זה מוקלט, ואני הולך עם זה למשטרה. זה מוקלט, חבוב. זה מוקלט, ואני הולך עם זה למשטרה, חבוב. זה מוקלט, ואני הולך עם זה למשטרה. זה מוקלט, ואני הולך עם זה למשטרה. So because they have different, somewhat of a different biology, than Titan females. It's not exactly, they are both Titans, but because they are hooked on they are addicted to the drug because of their circumstances. They cannot produce it by themselves. They need to get it from other, like, mostly Titans. And this actually makes them vulnerable to all sorts of diseases. That's why on average on average, מה אתה עושה?
סוגרים את החדר, אי אפשר לשמוע אותך. או שתשים זה, ננסה למצוא פתרון.
הפתרון הוא שנקרא למשטרה ויקחו אותך, אתה לא יכול להתנהג באלימות.
אמרתי שתשים בשקט מעל
אתה לא יכול להתנהג באלימות כלפיי, תצא מהחדר הזה, תעזוב את הדלת הזאת. תעזוב את הדלת הזאת, אני אקרא למשטרה עוד רגע. אתה לא יכול להתנהג באלימות, אנחנו נקרא למשטרה ויקחו אותך מפה. אני אקרא למשטרה אם האלימות לא תיפסק. כולם פה מתים מה? אתה מאיים עליי במכות? אתה מאיים עליי במכות. למה? 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 לא הבנתי, למה? אני מבקש ממך להפסיק לאיים עליי, כי אני הולך עם זה למשטרה. להפסיק לאיים עליי ולהפסיק לגעת בדלת שלי ולהפסיק לעשות רעשים ולהתנהג באלימות. להפסיק את האלימות. אני מדבר בטלפון ואתה צריך לעזוב את החדר הזה. לעזוב את החדר הזה, לעזוב את החדר הזה. לא, אני לא אקשיב, אתה תקשיב. לעזוב את החדר הזה. אתה חייב להפסיק להיות ליד החדר שלי, אתה לא יכול להתנהג באלימות. אתה לא יכול להתנהג באלימות. אתה לא יכול להתנהג באלימות.
אני יכול להתנהג כשאתם רוצים אלימות תכבד. אתה מכבד אותי, השגת תכבד, אני אתן מה אני אעשה כאן. בגלל שדבר אחד, אתה מתחלקות, אתה אומר לי אין תהיה בעיה. אתה רוצה כבר נבוא, או כבר לקבל מכות מאנשים סתם? אבל...
So we will postpone the last part of the video with regards to the scientific research of my own because I need probably to call the police. I will just say that the wizards are much more prone to diseases. So most probably you will see different kind of body that is not remarkably preserved because of all the diseases that they have in their bodies. And this will most certainly affect the decomposure of the body. I don't know in what way, but it will not be the same because of all the diseases. And it's not 100% that I would say a wizard has in their body tremendous amount of diseases, but it's known to be like that in Israel since long ago. And it's because of their vulnerability. And probably it's also like that in Venus, because of the vulnerability. Also, it should be said that in Venus, and this is not necessarily true for Reagan, but in Venus and also in Israel, these wizards, they have sex with a lot of partners because they mostly did the change in order to be whores for the females. You understand it? So because they have tremendous amount of sexual partners, they are also vulnerable to a lot of sexual transmitted diseases. This is true in Venus and it's also true in Earth, but this might not be true for the Reagan clone if he's indeed the Reagan because I don't think that, as the President of the United States, he had sex with a tremendous amount of partners. Maybe he was a wizard before that, actually. And, before that, it was Nancy. So, there are questions here. But, in general, the wizards are prone to many diseases, both because of the fact that they are addicted to the tea and they cannot sustain themselves without it and they need it from other sources, and because mostly, both in Venus and in Earth, they have tremendous amount of sexual partners because that's why they did the change, many times, to satisfy the sexual needs of the females. So, most probably such a body will be decomposed in a different way than a regular Titan female that was not a wizard. And probably was much less prone to all sorts of diseases. And now we need to see, whether we call the police or whatever, I don't know what we do, but the violence is now, as you hear, culminating. So we need to see how we continue. This is my life. We will never forgive the United States of America for what they've done to us. We will never forgive the United States of America for what they've done to us. Never.